just joining us, this is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. I'm Pimm Fox. You know, when institutional brokers want specific ideas for select clients on which stocks to buy or sell, our next guest is someone they turn to for the answers and for guidance. Colin Berthoud is the director of youDevise. They conduct the research and make the call. Colin, good to have you with us. Thanks very much. For those that don't know what youDevise is, I always have to start off by asking you, okay, exactly what kind of information are you aggregating? Because this is all information that's coming to you from third parties. You put it all together. Tell us about it.
Yes, we're a systems firm, so our job is to take the data from institutional brokers and relay that information to the specific clients that will pay them for those trade ideas. So it's all about the best stock picks from brokers for their clients.
Okay, so taking all of these great ideas, is there some kind of record that you can point to that shows us whether this has actually been a smart thing on the part of institutional investors?
So as well as taking the ideas and giving them personally to the brokers, to the buy-side institutions that have asked for those ideas, we build up a record of who is good at providing stock picks and who is bad at providing stock picks. This is a chart which shows the returns of the average broker against a relative index. So one of the things we found, we've analysed the whole database recently, there's about 4,000 people contributing, and around 75% of the institutional brokers in the UK are beating the UK index. So that's a lot better than most institutional funds are doing.
So the institutional funds ought to be taking those institutional brokers' advice, at least according to the information.
And if you ran a fund based on trade ideas from institutional brokers and you just put in a bet on every idea that came through the system, you would be making a significant profit relative to the index. So around 60% better than the index over
60% better than the index?
Over a 12-month period, yes.
And is there any reason for this? I mean, is it because you're getting several outsized returns from several of the institutional brokerage firms? I mean, or is it evenly distributed? How do we know where that extra bit is coming from?
Well, there's 75% of the people, so it's a large number of people putting in their ideas. Now, if you bet on a single idea from at random, then you'd have a 75% chance probably of achieving a good return. So the reason it's so good is these are self-selecting group. The reason they've been asked to send ideas by the institutional buy-side firm is that they know they're good at the stock picking activity. So they're on the system because they're good. They're the best alpha generators. That's a term we use for the outperformance against the index. They're the best alpha generators in the world.
So the idea being that if you're an institutional buy-side firm, you're of course only asking for ideas from those institutional research or brokerage firms that are very good at supplying those ideas.
Yes, so it's a broad spectrum of firms, but within those firms, it's the best stock pickers within those firms who are putting ideas into the system. And
have you noticed whether this is just for the UK market? Have you noticed this is equally as beneficial for US investors?
The service started in the UK. US brokerages are becoming better and better over time. So the return is more like 65% for the UK brokerages, but it's improving over time.
So they got a little bit of a head start, yes. Though.
So the number of people who are better than the index is 65%. In the UK, it's more like 75%, but we had a head start over there.
Okay, all right. Well, we're going to continue the conversation. We've got actual stock picks, indeed, from some of these institutional brokerage research firms. You're going to tell us some of the ideas that they've been passing along, and then we're going to see how they actually stack up. We've got more with Colin Berthoud as he prepares his stock picks from around the world. The list does include a grocery chain as well as a car to drive them home in. Yes, indeed. This is Taking Stock on Bloomberg. A programming note, Taking Stock begins each weekday at 3 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg 1130 AM, XM channel 129, Sirius channel 130, and on Bloomberg.com. Our guest is Colin Berthoud. He is the director of youDevise. So, Colin, let's talk about market sentiment right now. And just to kind of recap, youDevise, you're really the system, the computer system that is in between the buy side and the sell side as far as research goes. And as you were just describing off camera, really what it is the sell side is telling the buy-side research people, look, don't call us directly, just enter the ideas into the system, and then your system actually aggregates the information.
So the buy-side drives the salespeople and says, we want your trade ideas. the best salespeople get on the system and send their ideas to the buy side. So the aim of the system is to measure and distribute those trade ideas. So are the salespeople entering the ideas good? Are the ideas good? Should we act on this idea? Should we make the ideas part of our investment strategy? That is what the buy side...
And they're doing this all in real time?
And this is all real time.
All right. So what is the real-time information telling you, let's say, about market sentiment right now?
So
are we bullish?
We can aggregate it up, and at the moment, today, there's been an improvement across the TIM. So there's more long ideas going in now than there were. The number of short ideas has declined, and the number of short open ideas has been reduced. They've closed their short ideas. They're leaving their long ideas open. So the sentiment has moved slightly in favor of a more bullish stance. Having said that, the overall sentiment is still somewhat negative. So
really? Still somewhat negative?
It's still somewhat negative across the whole world. So we're not looking just at the US, but across the whole world is somewhat negative. In North America, it's improved further than the rest of the world, but again, it's about 50-50 in the US now.
All right, so let's get a little bit more granular, as they say in the business. I mean, talk about some of the stocks specifically. I know that you wanted to mention, for example, Volkswagen. What is the market saying about Volkswagen?
Well, there's a specific case in Volkswagen. So Volkswagen, we understand there's been some share purchase at a below market value, so the whole company has now drifted downwards. So we can see there's quite a lot of ideas gone in there now that are negative in their sentiment of Volkswagen.
All right, negative sentiment right now for Volkswagen. What about for Vestas, the wind turbine company?
Again, the sentiment there is very negative. The outlook is uncertain for the company with the oil price the way it is. Vestas, there's more people who are recommending shorts in Vestas than there are longs by quite a distance right now.
All right, and what about Alcoa? I know it was another one, and today, for example, I noted that Goldman Sachs came out and they said they prefer investors to buy the shares of Freeport-McMoRan as opposed to owning the shares of Alcoa. What is market sentiment from the youDevise system telling you about Alcoa?
Alcoa, we've actually seen a slight longer trend. So there's people who are now putting on ideas on the long side in Alcoa. This share price has declined, but now is a moment, and we see this across the TIM as a whole.
When you say TIM, just to explain for people so they understand it.
The Trade Idea Monitor, which is the name of the service, so we call it TIM for short.
Okay, the Trade Idea Monitor. So across the Trade Idea Monitor, you're getting more bullish, more long-term bullish signals for Alcoa?
Well, what we see is as soon as there's a price dip, people buy on the dip. As soon as there's a price rise, people buy on the blip. So it's very much a kind of a market that's steady around a certain base. And in the recent rally, we saw a lot of brokers saying, take your profit, take your profit. So there's no strong overall sentiment. As soon as the market moves in a certain direction, people are taking advantage of that short-term change as they see it. They don't see a long-term market move.
All right. What about in the retail sector? I know you wanted to talk about BJ's Wholesale. What are you finding there? What is the sell side saying?
Well, there's a couple of stocks that have emerged today. So these are stocks where there's been more than usual activity. So BJ Wholesale, Tesco, there's been more activity than normal around these stocks, and in both cases it's been slightly in the long direction, and one could attribute that to slightly better than expected results, perhaps some sentiment around the consumer sector which has improved. So we're seeing in both those cases, both the hot stocks in consumer discretionary are somewhat long.
So long, for example, in Tesco, long in BJ's Wholesale Club.
Both stocks, the sentiment is in the long direction.
Now, it's important to note that in a way, it doesn't really matter to you why they're recommending them as being long or shorts. It's just recommending them, and as you said, it's a kind of a self-selecting group because these are supposed to be some of the best sell-side analysts.
Yes, and there's a good bet that they're right about these stocks. On the other hand, they're not right about every stock. So.
And is there one stock now that you find a predominance of long or short? Is there anything in your total sort of market universe?
Well, all of these stocks that we mentioned just now, there's more than usual activity, both in terms of the stock relative to all the other stocks. There's around 3,000 stocks where there are ideas in the Trade Idea Monitor today, and these stocks stand out because there's more activity than normal. So they stand out for that reason. One or two of them are particularly long or short. Volkswagen, as an example, everyone seems to be short on Volkswagen right now.
All right. I want to thank you very much, Colin Berthoud, as always, coming to us from youDevise, as always, very interesting and giving us an insight into the world of sell-side research and what the buy side really wants to hear from the sell side. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Coming up, how...